Hello, and welcome to a VO's Journey podcast. My name is Anthony Pica. This show is all about helping the new and upcoming voiceover artists grow their business and sidestep all the crazy things that God knows I am surely stepping on right now. It is the 23rd of December. I'm so excited to be coming to you guys live from my car. That's right. It's been a while since I've done the podcast, and that's really because I've been in transition. I've been moving. I'm still, displaced. We're staying with friends. That our home and the place that we bought is being completely renovated. So, right now it's just an empty shell. And it's been kind of crazy, even trying to find somewhere to record and the woes and everything I've been having with that. So I'm excited to talk to you about what's going on with me and, maybe just some things, some tips you could pick up depending on where you are in your journey if you happen to ever be in this situation. All right, let's do it.
This is VO's Journey. With your host, the incomparable Anthony Pica.
All right, so I have to say it is really great to be back talking to you guys. First and foremost, I have to tell you this move has been, and we're in the middle of it. It's been definitely. Well, it's been downright, crazy. I've never renovated an entire house, for one, period. And then second, I've never been in a situation where I have literally lived with other people in my adult life. So that's been that I haven't had my own place. And it's definitely humbling and one, feeling very blessed that we have such giving friends who are letting my wife, my son, my daughter, my cat, my dog, Captain and Banjo and me stay in their home. It's really humbling and blessed. We just feel really blessed. At the same time, it is definitely strange and different. It's something that I've not experienced before, so definitely taking it with strides and doing the best that we can. One of the crazy things, of course, is the recording, right? The recording aspect of what we do in our business is paramount to our success. We have to be able to record and, we have to have a space. I think when you have a voice actor who, and I remember this when I first started voiceover, when I listened to podcasts when I was first starting, and everybody on the podcasts were voice actors who had been doing it for years, and they were super successful, and they had everything set up, and everything was, in a place where they weren't really having any sort of issues, if you will, getting started or with their specific setup or their sound or their editing, their equipment. Everything was already done. So, what they always talked about were things that were relevant to them. And it was always kind of, they were great, but it was always kind of different when I listened to them, because I was like, well, no one's talking about the experiences I'm going through. And that's why I started a VO's Journey to begin with, was to share that journey with you all. And, I found myself, getting into that same situation after a couple hundred episodes of the podcast and hundreds of videos and social media posts and everything. Where we are now, I never would have imagined. But it's interesting going back to sort of the beginning in a way with this move. Well, it's interesting. It's very interesting because it's going back to the beginning in the sense of, like not having a place to record. Like, what do you do? And on top of that, not having a place, not being in a place that you're not going to be in maybe longer than a month and a half or so, right? But at the same time, you have your, like, my things are packed, and our other house, right? The house is being renovated. They're packed. We have a barn on the property because, we purchased a horse farm. That was the point of the move. Purchased like 12 acres of land, and my wife's starting a horse business. So, that's why we're doing all that. So we bought kind of an old property, that we could afford, and then now we're working on renovating it all, and getting, it's going to be amazing when it's all done. But everything is out there. So, like, I brought all the equipment and things with me that I needed, that I thought I could use. And it's been definitely crazy, because I don't feel like I could set up a booth in the house. I mean, they've been very wonderful. They've got another floor that they could, I mean, it's like their attic floor, and I could set up something up there, you know what I mean? But dragging everything up and getting it set up and things, and I'm like, this is, it seems it's it takes a long time. So I think the first thing I wanted to say in this is setting myself back, or looking back when I first started, and to give you guys just, and just a remembrance and peace of mind for yourself. Don't be too hard on yourself. No matter where you are in your journey, but especially if you're just beginning, just kicking off, or trying to get things set up, it takes a long time to get yourself in a position to where you have the right sound. You have a good system. You have a good process of recording, editing, mastering, formatting, saving, and then sending files, getting work, whether you use a cloud, to save your files for 6 months or so, or you use a portable drive, whatever you're doing, the right computer, the right microphone, the right setup that goes correctly with your voice, like, all of these things took me time, especially when, I was doing it by myself. It took me years. It really did take me a couple years to really grasp the understanding of everything. And going back to where I am right now, coming to where I am right now, so right now, like I said to you, I'm in my truck. I have two corner bass trap foam, foam pieces, the foam pieces that are shaped like a triangle that go in your corners of your room or whatever, and we call them bass traps. So I have two of those, and I've positioned them to where they are kind of semi encapsulating my voice, and in the truck. So, like, I can, it's stopping, so I'm talking into my microphone, and right directly behind it, on an angle coming towards my face, is one of the bass traps, and the other one is right next to that on the right side. So if I'm looking at it, the left side one is come, to me, which is catching my voice, so that when I'm talking forward, it's not bouncing back off the window. And then the other one is going to the side. And I have my truck in kind of, it's not on, it's not off, but it has like an ACC mode, because this truck has a lot of connections. So that's another thing. So part of using the truck for the studio was cool, because I have the laptop, but I also decided to try, because I had originally hooked up my Zoom H5 to use my truck as a portable studio, and that worked just fine. But it was like a second step, a third step, because I have a MacBook Pro, and it used an SD card to record the WAV files, where the MacBook Pro, the new ones, you can't, unless you have an SD card reader, right? It doesn't fit into the Mac Pro. So I had to transfer that onto my my Dell computer, my Dell laptop, and then send that file to the MacBook, and then do all the work. Like, it was just all these different steps. And by the way, this is stuff that you go through when you're just starting, right? Because you don't have it all set up. So, I realized, okay, well, I've got my interface, and I need to see if I can hook up my interface. The problem is I need power. Well, the cool thing is that I have 110 outlets in my truck. So I have a Dodge Ram 1500, and I'm very fortunate that it has 110 outlets. It has USB, plus it has USB 3, all right, lightning plugs too. So I'm very fortunate in the sense that I can power my Apollo Twin universal audio interface and my laptop. And so that allows me then to power the microphone, but then record, with all of my setup live as opposed to me having to do the Zoom H5. But remember, the Zoom H5 works perfectly. And if you didn't have that issue that I had where you had to switch it back and forth, that's perfect. And the newer Zoom H5s actually allow you to use it as an interface to plug into your computer. So you can actually use it in interface mode, which I wish I had. Actually, that would have been perfect, but I didn't. I hadn't ordered it. I had my older one. So, by the time it was going to get to me and stuff, I mean, it was just easier for me to try to figure out how to do this. But interestingly enough, because of that, I had to go back to the basics. I had to download all the drivers because I used my iMac, right, for my voiceover. And this actually is a MacBook Pro. So this is a laptop. I used an iMac. So nothing was on this laptop. And I had to tell you you probably are like, why didn't you do this when you first started? At least that's what I think myself right now, or before I was packing up and leaving. And my thing is that I thought in my mind that it was going to be super simple because, I'm like, oh, I know everything. It's going to be fine. No, it has been a pain in the butt trying to get everything set back up. So like, for example, getting Adobe Audition, that was fine getting it downloaded. But for example, all my hotkeys, Isotope, like I use part of my chain that I heavily use is the mouth declick and the voice to noise from Isotope. And that's like the primary cleanup process that I use, and I've paid for that in the standard edition. And I didn't have it on the computer. I didn't have any of this stuff, so I had to get on there. But the biggest thing was downloading the drivers and everything for the Apollo Twin. Plus, I had not been doing, I had not updated the Big Sur or all these different things after Mojave or whatever from, Apple. If you're an Apple user, you know what I mean? So, like, I had to download extra stuff because, this is a brand new laptop, or it's not a brand, it's a year old laptop my wife has. And whereas my iMac is about 6 years old. So like I hadn't updated it recently because I was afraid that it wouldn't work, because you hear all those scary stories. So anyways, the point of all this story is just that, I had to go through it. It's been like 2 or 3 weeks of me tinkering, setting up, trying all these different things again in order to get, to a place where I can set up. And now, so basically it actually only takes me about 10 or 15 minutes to get in the truck, set it up, because, the cool thing about a truck or a car or wherever you have is it's quiet, right? It's set up to be quiet. Now, if you're right next to a busy road and there's massive semis going by, you might have an issue. But generally speaking, you know what I mean? They build cars and trucks to be quiet inside, and the acoustics are pretty decent. So with the added kind of setup and that I have a shotgun microphone, and of course it's the 416, so it's a really good microphone, with the setup of my bass traps, it actually is pretty nice in here. You know what I mean? I mean, it might get a little bit of something, but generally speaking, it's a really good sound. And I actually have a directed session set up after I told them I was portable and sent them a sample of my space, and they said it sounded amazing. So I even got a directed session set up for next week in my portable booth, in my car, my truck. So it is definitely something that anyone can do. And I'm actually excited about discovering this because this now allows me, it gives me the feeling that I can move, I can travel. We always worry about traveling as voice actors, I think. I always did, and then, the story about when I had to put my stuff on Fiverr on hold for a couple weeks as we went to Alaska, and that was a disaster. It really tanked my account. And it was really, really hard for me to rebound from that, and I'm actually experiencing some of that right now because I'd put my account not on hold, but I put it on like 7 to 14 day delivery. And, it's definitely slowed things down. And because I was trying to figure all this out, I was like, it'd just be better if I didn't have any of that over my head, but of course people still ordering and but it definitely has, reduced the orders, which is nice because I needed that. But, it's definitely a feeling. But what I'm trying to say is no matter, even if I flew to Alaska again to see my mom, she has they have a truck, they have a car, I could use this portable setup in those vehicles. You know what I mean? And make it work. And even if I had to figure out a way to have, the outlets and the plugs, I could make it work. You know what I mean? I mean, that is the cool thing about, at least my vehicle. But but I have to admit the trip to Alaska is extreme, right? Because I'm in Virginia, so it's like I don't. It's like 5,000 miles away or something, like 4 or 5,000 miles away. But what I'm trying to say is traveling in your vehicle, going somewhere, it just gives you a whole new setup. And if you're just starting out and you want an inexpensive way before while you're building your boot, this works really well. But it is awkward in the sense that, you're set up in your car, you've got these foam pieces up in the dash. So it definitely is, it's not like a aesthetically pleasing situation. But it does the job, and it's been doing the job okay and pretty well. So I'm pleased about that. But I have to say that it has been challenging moving towards, how do I manage a business? How do I continue to do things, right? Because I'm full time, and this is like a whole nother situation. I never factored any of this in. Like, how was I going to travel? And for example, I've worked with a lot of people who actually, in their jobs, they travel. And, it's always been a challenge, trying to set up in rooms and things like that. But I do find that there are ways. So here's really things I think is really cool. And I think these two bass traps actually are key to this. I got these bass traps. These are not the smaller ones. So they're about, I think they're about 2 feet long, and they're definitely about 12 inches. They're about a foot thick. All right. And they're the triangle bass traps, but they're 2 feet by 1 foot. And usually they come about 1 by 1, but the 2 feet allows you to create almost like an arc, coming out from like your microphone, so that as you're speaking in it, you can arc them to where they will stop the noise, right, from going forward, which will then stop it from bouncing and going back. You know what I mean? So in actuality, and if you use a shotgun microphone, which again, it doesn't pick up a lot of noise from right to left, you're going to have a really good sound, and you could set that up anywhere. I think that is a nice, easy setup and not very expensive. And, you can smush these foams, right? I mean, you can smush this stuff and you could travel with it. You know what I mean? Whether you put it in a bag or you shove it in a suitcase, whatever you do, you can definitely, travel with it. So it's definitely something that I am excited that I've experienced and I'm experiencing. So at least I can bring it to you. I will say that, I just was at my house, and they've really gotten far. We had this massive brick chimney in the middle. I've posted some videos, or pictures rather, of the place, and I probably will take a video today because the transformation is unbelievable. I mean, they're about 90% done with the demo. It was an old house that was built in the 60s, so a lot of the demo was, plaster. Like most of the house was plaster. You know what I mean? Like it was plaster, and it was there was this massive unsolid brick chimney. It wasn't like enclosed, with empty space in the middle. It was completely solid, and it went up 2 stories and came out of the roof. So they had to start up top, and they had to work their way down to get rid of this massive chimney and tear out, it's unbelievable, the transformation from when the house started to where it is even now, because it's just being it's gutted because we wanted an open concept, and it's just shocking. But it is one of those situations where it's also, you feel kind of like it's exciting, but you're helpless because you can't do anything, but yet watch, as the time goes by. I had to say I'm very blessed that I found an incredible incredible general contractor and an amazing crew. They're working amazingly. The guys that have been working have just been, busting tail. And it's at the holidays, we've got all the COVID stuff, and they've been working. I think a couple of the guys had come down with COVID, and they switched them out, and they stayed out their the 10 days or whatever they need to stay out, and they've been getting their tests. And I've been really just impressed and blessed, because I've heard kind of nightmare stories of other people who've had just a lot of issues with, remodeling and things, and just struggling because of the pandemic and things. It's hard. So I'm just very, very fortunate and blessed for that. But that's been a whole new thing. Now, the cool thing I want to share with you is that what we're going to be doing. So I've gone back and forth a million different times about my studio. And, and I'd sold my Whisper Room to a member of VO's Journey Elite, Angela, and I was very excited that she got that. But because I wanted to build my studio in my house. And the cool thing is I've been talking to him, and we're going to actually the room we're going to build. The room specifically is going to be built for the studio. I'm going to have a studio build in the room. So the studio, and then there's going to be a recording booth built into the room. And we're at 4 inches thick of rock salt throughout the entire inside of that recording booth, right? With acoustic material on the ins, like that's covering the rock salt, so it absorbs all of the acoustic treatment as well. And then we're gonna I'm gonna have a built-in desk for my streaming, right, and the editing outside, and we're gonna have a mount in place for the big screen TV or computer screen or whatever, and then stuff for the cords and everything, so that I can record in there as well and stream for a place for the camera. Also, I'm gonna have some ventilation built into it so that it can be ventilated. And right now it's down to the studs, and I'm gonna show a video of it, but it's pretty darn cool. So you can like map it out. And what's really neat is like I had hired a designer, to help with the design of it, and they got the general design. But I tell you, we've already like changed as we've been going through, and with this general contractor who's really amazing. Like we've been kind of changing it on the fly, and we've been very blessed that he's been so like, now they just started framing some today. So, right now it's just been demo. So we've been going through as the walls have been coming down and everything's been happening. We've been able to go through and kind of see, hey, over here we want to do this, over here we want to do that. It's kind of like a dream. I don't know if any of y'all I know I've always thought it would be so cool to just have a place and be able to kind of like build it, or um, you'll build it how you want it, as opposed to most of where we go and we find the best we can, right? Because it's massively expensive, it's time consuming. But it just turned out that right now we were able to get, because of the sale of our house, we were able to take all the money and put it into this place. So it just kind of worked out with the time and everything, and the property, and in the end, we ended up, because we bought a property that needed a lot of work, you know what I mean? I think it's going to work out more because we were able to afford it, and take the money for the renovation. So that's been a blessing, and then we've got to build out the rest of it. We got to put up the fence, we got to redo the fencing and redo the barn, and but it's like a labor of love at this point. So it's really exciting. It's scary too, because, trying to manage all of this while doing things. Like one of the big things has been a struggle for me is the social media aspect, because a lot of the work I did was my social media, and was the building content, doing podcasting. This is actually, now the podcasting is probably the easiest thing I do, because I don't have my setups and stuff. I don't have, so like it's hard to record. Video is poor. I got to put it on my cell phone. Like I do have camera on my laptop, but it's awful. And it's one of those things where it's like I'm trying to figure out how to continue putting out content, doing stuff. And it's a challenge, and again, these are things that it took me years to get to a point where I was able to figure it out, and now, because of where I am, it's like experiencing it all over again. And it's so funny, because when I first started, I started doing podcasts because I wasn't able to film and I wasn't able to do anything. And, right now, what is it? I'm back doing, I'm podcast, and I love it. And I recommend that for you guys too. If you're in a situation where you don't want to, and I'm actually working with quite a few clients right now. Okay, so I literally just I kept that clip so that you guys could this podcast, what, 23 minutes so far, and the car, it has automatic shut off. So quick note, it's about 20 to 25 minutes and then it will shut off automatically. So all my systems shut off. So I thought that was interesting. But what I was saying was, is before it got shut off, was that the podcasting is such a wonderful way to get started, getting out, your message, getting out communication, building your brand without having to be on camera, without having to do that stuff, because, you get to use your voice, which is what we are using for our business, right? And B, you get to share not only the podcast, but you can break it down in clips. You can create little video. You can create MP4s where there's just some wave files that bounce up and down. There's many different programs out there that create those. In podcasting, you can use a site like I use Buzzsprout. Now I pay for that because it has some extra features. But you can use there's many different places that offer you to be able to do podcasting for free. But there's some that are paid, and it's definitely been absolutely worth it to me. And I love, I started this whole journey with podcast. So it's cool that it's come full circle, and this is back where we are. And so currently what I'm doing, so just as we finish this up, and if you're still listening, you rock, you're awesome. Currently where I am is that I'm about probably $4,000 this month in voiceover for December. That's clearly less than half of what I usually make. I'm usually between 10 to 15,000 a month for voiceover. But it's been an amazing blessing because of VO's Journey Elite Academy, okay, is, we have almost 200 members in the academy. And that's been also a wonderful thing that can continue because I don't have to have, we've got 5 coaches now because we just added Angela Olfest to the lineup. So we're so excited. So we have an amazing lineup. And by the way, we're going to be working on curriculum and kicking butt with that coming for the new year and offering a whole bunch of new stuff. So I'm very excited to even, dial down because, we're hopefully for the new year, we're looking to get up to, the goal is to hit 350 members by the end of 2022. So, we're really going to do everything we can to make the academy even 10 times better than it is right now. So thrilled about that. But because of the academy and because of the other parts of the business I've built, with my courses and everything, it has really helped. It's helped a lot to mitigate the 50-60% drop in income. But at the same time, we are only, what is this, the 23rd? And, it is definitely a transition month because of all the stuff I'm going through. So like I said, I got that session next week. I've got a couple of podcast intros. I've got some things that I'm working on right now for people, and I actually have made more money, but I had to cancel some stuff because of the move. That was another thing. I had to cancel probably about $1,500 worth of work because I just couldn't complete it because I didn't have my stuff set up. So that was another hard thing, and that kind of hits your account hard. So it's definitely been a challenge, but I've been very blessed by the business that I've created. And so now kind of where I am with everything. The reality is I wanted to share with you it because I want you to consider if I had not built this other part of my business, which, by the way, on a side note, I was a teacher for, almost 15 years. I love educating. I love helping people learn. So it's kind of was natural for me to start, an educational type of business with voiceover. And that might not be your thing, and that's totally cool. But, what I'm trying to say is having different streams of income can really help in situations where you can't record completely. You know what I mean? And I know you might be like, wow, 4,000 is a lot of money. And it is, 4,000 is a lot of money, right? But if you're making 10 to 12 or 10 to 15,000, 4,000 is is 60% less than what, 60 to 80 to 90% less than what you're used to making. So, you have to, you consider it, whether it's higher numbers or lower numbers. The point is that having multiple streams of income, right, is a great thing to do. Now, if you're just starting out, don't stress too much about that. But as you're moving along, you want to create things that you can do that can sell while you're not actually physically having to record. Perfect things. There's 2 things that really do well in voiceover that we know that we sell direct to consumer that you can record once and then sell. That's audiobooks and then meditations. All right. Those 2 things you can prepackage, you can do once, and then you can sell. Okay, there's other things that you can do too, as we're, and it's up to us to be clever about it. But the point I'm trying to make is that if you're not, education's not your thing, that's totally fine. Like I said, my wife and I, we've been educators pretty much our entire marriage, 20 years. She's been an educator for 21 years, and she just recently left this year when I was able to bring her home. I was an educator my whole life to 15 years, up to 4 or 5 years ago when I left teaching to do this full time, so I mean, like, that's a part of my life and I love it and I wouldn't want to do anything else. And I love that I can, tie it into doing voiceover. But if education is not your thing, there's so many other things like using voiceover to help, doing YouTube videos, using your voice, being a part of these things that can pay you over and over again. And I should do more podcasts, more episodes on different ways that you can utilize YouTube, audiobooks, public domain things that are free. You can actually work with people. You can have ghostwriters who write your stuff now. You can create series of things. I mean, there's so many opportunities that you can do to create your own streams of income that are not so reliant on other people paying you. Do you know what I mean? Like per job, that it's really worth adding to the mix, right? Not eliminating, because no matter what I do, I will always do voiceover because I love it. And I love doing voiceovers. But, it's nice to be able to have other streams of income so that in like situations like this, you know what I mean? We're not really struggling, to make ends meet. And I think that's something that, is up to us as business owners to really pay attention to. All right, you guys. Well, listen, thank you so much for listening. I know this one was a little longer, but it was well overdue. Thank you, as always, for being a part of a VO's journey, and definitely going to be doing more podcasts because this is the big way that I have to communicate with everybody now. And as always, check out, VO's Journey Facebook group. Also, we have about 2 days left for the for the special on a VO's Journey Elite Academy. So check that out. You get half off the first month. There'll be a link below for this to check that out. But other than that, you guys are amazing. Thank you. Have a wonderful Merry Christmas, and I will talk to you soon. All right, everybody, take it easy. Peace.